So injury to this muscle or the nerve itself, that is the cranial accessory nerve, the spinal rather. So it is the spinal part of the cranial part that join and go into the brain and come back. So if you have a problem in the central nervous system or in the posterior triangle of the neck, that means you no longer have the nerve that supplies the muscle for shoulder elevation. So the shoulder drops. Right? This is why I'm saying dropped shoulder will be different from a weak scapula. Right? So that's two now. Shoulder separation. When you talk about the acromioclavicular joint, if you have a problem there's separation. That means this will function independent of this. The shoulder has separated. It's a problem with your acromioclavicular ligaments, but that's a story for another day. Then the deltoid muscle. Did you do introduction to anatomy to just? But if you look at muscles, they are unipennate muscles that have fibers. Let's say this is a muscle. Can you see these fibers are oriented in one direction? That's a unipennate. Or you can have fibers like this. Right? The tendon is central. Then you have fibers on this side going in this direction, and this side going in this direction. That's bipennate. Or you can have a muscle like the deltoid, which has fibers going in more than two directions. That's a multi-pennate muscle. And multi-pennate muscles, that means if this muscle, if you're going to pull this kind of a muscle, it will only pull maybe in this direction. Right? But the deltoid now has three groups of fibers. The anterior fibers being anterior will flex. The posterior fibers being posterior will extend. Right? The anterior fibers will also medially rotate. The posterior fibers will also laterally rotate. But the main part of the deltoid is the mid fibers. Those mid fibers, they do what is known as abduction. The deltoid is the major or the minor, the major what? Abductor. So it's just we say the lady, it's two majors, they will all abduct. But the deltoid will abduct, right? But the deltoid cannot do this initiation of abduction. It needs their own. Right? Because we're saying that the fibers are like this. The anterior fibers, let's say they're like that. The posterior fibers, let's say they're like that. Then the mid fibers, let's say they're like that. Right? They're different in terms of direction. So you need to get into the line of pull. For those who did physics, you cannot do an action until you get into the line of pull of something, right? So you need to get into this line of pull. Let's say, for my example here, in this position. That means there's a muscle that is supposed to initiate abduction up to 15 degrees. That's the supraspinatus. Then from 15 degrees going all the way up, you then have the deltoid. So you find people who are not able to lift their arms, but they can only lift them after they get out, maybe to here. Those people have a problem with the supraspinatus. This deltoid is supplied by the axillary nerve. The axillary nerve will only supply two muscles. We'll talk about that in the brachial plexus. Then another muscle that you see is the latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi. Latissimus means extensive, right, from Latin. So this muscle has an extensive origin. It comes from iliac crest on the back, the lumbar fascia that is in this region, then the lower 6 thoracic vertebra, that is vertebra, thoracic vertebra 7 to 12, then the lower 3 or 4 ribs, the inferior end of the scapula. So notice it's coming from all the way down, going up, and it takes fibers from the scapula, then inserts into the floor of the bicipital groove. So remember I said the biceptal groove has a floor, then you have a lateral lip, then you have a medial lip. The lady that is between two majors is the latissimus dorsi. Then the pec major, we say it's coming to insert into the lateral lip. Right. Onto the medial lip, you have another major, which is the pec major. This latissimus dorsi, believe it or not, it has its own intrinsic activity. So normally muscles, they need nerve supply to contract, right? Yes, it's supplied by whatever controls on nerve, whatever. But back then, it used to be removed, then made to cover the heart in people with heart failure. So the heart contracts on its own, like independent of your thoughts. For now, let's use like slant technology. But if you take the latissimus dorsi and you cover the heart, it can contract because it's its own intrinsic activity. Right. Then this latissimus dorsi, it has two actions similar to the pec major, like I said before, right? Medial rotation and adduction. But the muscle is on the back, so it will extend. Pec major is on the front, so it will flex. Let me rush through the other muscles before I go. I told you about latissimus, trapezius, deltoid. Then you have the teres muscles, the teres major and the teres minor. On the back, there are also rhomboid majors and rhomboid minors. For those two groups of muscles, the minor is above the major. That's different from this. So, the teres muscles, remember I said that the only muscles that come from a lateral border of the scapula. That means on the upper surface of the lateral border, you expect teres minor. Beneath, you expect teres major. The teres major will insert onto the medial lip of the bicipital groove. Then the teres minor now. Remember the greater tuberosity. It's a tuberosity because there is something pulling the bone out, right? Muscle. It's a greater one. This is a less. That means there are more muscles on the greater, right? You need to make sense of things. So the muscles that insert into the greater tuberosity, they insert in this order. The T is your teres minor. The teres major is going to the medial lip. The muscle that will go to the lesser tuberosity is another S, which I'll talk about shortly. These four muscles, they are known as the rotator cuff muscles. They are the major stabilizers of the shoulder joint. Right. So you have supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, subscapularis. Right. Origin of these muscles is easy. Subscapularis coming from subscapular fossa of the scapula. Supraspinatus, supraspinous fossa. Infraspinatus, infraspinous fossa. Teres minor, we say it's coming from the upper part of the lateral border. Right? Beautiful. I won't bore you with functions of these muscles for now, but supraspinatus, remember we said it initiates abduction up until you get to 15 degrees, right? Then another muscle, the rhomboid. Before I talk about the rhomboid, there's another muscle that is coming from the transverse processes of C1 to C4. Right? So these muscles, they are not really intrinsic muscles of the upper limb that we are all talking about. They are extrinsic, but they have an action on the upper limb. The intrinsic muscles, we start talking about the neck, the arm, the forearm, and the hand. Those are intrinsic to the upper limb. These are extrinsic. So, the levator scapulae originates from C1 to C4. From its name, levator scapulae, it will elevate the scapula. also going to insert onto the medial board of the scapula. So remember, everything is going to the medial board, and nothing is going to the lateral except the two tensor angles. Then you have the rhomboids, rhomboid minor and rhomboid major. Rhomboid minor lies above, so it originates from, others will say C7 and T1, but it also comes from the ligamental movement. Because remember, we said C1 to C6. Their spinous process there, covered by a ligament. Then from C7 to T1, that's rhomboid minor. T2 to T5, rhomboid major. They're all going to the scapula. And remember, if they're coming from the vertebral column in the midline and going to this medial board of the scapula, they're going to pull the scapula towards the midline, which now is medial rotation of the scapula. Latissimus dorsi, we say, serratus anterior, we say it's going to pull away from this midline to the back. So that's lateral rotation for serratus, right? Okay. Questions? When do you withdraw your next?
Next Friday.
Next Friday.